Welcome to our channel. Today we're diving into the life of Queen Soraya Esfandiari, a woman whose beauty, heartbreak, and defiance made her a legendary figure in history. From a fairy tale romance with the Shah of Iran to a life marked by tragedy, betrayal, and resilience, her story is one of both grandeur and sorrow. Stay tuned as we uncover the rise and fall of the sad-eyed princess. Queen Soraya, though famously divorced from the Shah of Iran in 1958, shared a love story that was as tragic as it was unforgettable. Despite the dissolution of their marriage, the two never ceased to love one another, their connection remaining deep and enduring. Their romance, marked by twists of fate, rivaled the ill-fated tale of Romeo and Juliet. Years after their separation, when the Shah lay on his deathbed, Soraya reached out to him with a heartfelt letter. Tragically, what could have been a bittersweet moment of closure ended in even greater heartbreak, an outcome neither could have foreseen. From the beginning, Soraya's life seemed destined for royalty. She was the cherished only daughter of Iranian nobleman Khalil Esfandiari and his German wife Eva Karl. Her upbringing was one of unparalleled privilege and refinement, a blend of two distinct cultures. Splitting her time between the grandeur of Isfahan and the cosmopolitan allure of Berlin, Soraya attended some of the most prestigious finishing schools in Europe. This luxurious upbringing provided her with an enviable education and exposure to the world, molding her into a poised and cultured young woman. Her early years, though filled with affluence and opportunity, also shaped her strong personality. Soraya was known not only for her beauty, but also for her straightforward demeanor and fiery temper. Quick to react when provoked, she could be charming and captivating one moment and intensely confrontational the next. Despite this, her extraordinary beauty often overshadowed any criticism, earning her admiration and attention from those around her. It was this combination of elegance, sophistication, and raw emotion that would later captivate the Shah, setting the stage for a love story as grand as it was tragic. Although Soraya was undeniably beautiful, her personality was famously strong-willed. She had a blunt, no-nonsense demeanor and a fiery temper, which made her quick to react when provoked. Despite these qualities, her striking looks seemed to overshadow any criticisms. Her captivating appearance caught the attention of many, including those within royal circles. In 1948, a single photograph of Soraya was enough to convince the Queen Mother of Iran that she could be the perfect match for her son, Shah Mohammad Reza. The Queen Mother, eager to find her son a suitable new wife, quickly deemed Soraya to be queen material. However, like many fairy tales, this one had an unsettling undertone. The Queen Mother was so determined to evaluate Soraya as a potential bride for the Shah that she sent one of her daughters to meet the young woman and assess her qualities. The Iranian royal family approached such matters with great seriousness. Even though Soraya's education was modest, she had only just completed basic studies. They wasted no time inviting her to the palace in Tehran. Ostensibly, it was a casual social visit to determine compatibility, but in reality, it was more of an official audition for the role of queen. For Soraya, the experience felt like stepping into a dream. She was swept away by the grandeur and the promises of royal life, which culminated in a life-changing moment. The instant the Shah entered the room, dressed immaculately in his pressed military uniform, Soraya was completely captivated. To her, he seemed magnificent, embodying every ideal of a royal suitor. It was love at first sight, or at least infatuation. But as overwhelmed as Soraya was by the Shah's presence, the feeling was mutual. He was equally smitten, so much so that he was ready to propose almost immediately. However, Even in this whirlwind of emotions, there were early signs of potential trouble. Firstly, there was a significant age gap between the pair. The Shah was firmly in his 30s, while Soraya was still in her teens. Secondly, his family dynamics were deeply troubling. The Shah's father, in an effort to make him more resilient, had been distant and unaffectionate, while his mother was overbearing and often jealous. This complex family environment had left deep scars. Moreover, the Shah's history with relationships was far from ideal. He had previously been married to Princess Fawzia of Egypt, a union that had ended in bitterness and scandal. Their marriage had been unhappy, not least because Fawzia struggled with the toxic atmosphere within the Iranian royal court. They had one daughter, but the lack of a male heir further strained their relationship. Adding to the complications, the Shah had a reputation for being a notorious philanderer, with numerous mistresses and a penchant for lavish escapades. Despite these warning signs, Soraya accepted the Shah's proposal. However, even her age at the time of their engagement remains a matter of debate. Some claim she was 18, while others believe she was as young as 16, with palace officials deliberately misrepresenting her age to make the match appear more appropriate. Their wedding was planned for December 27, 1950, but fate intervened. Just before the ceremony, Soraya fell gravely ill with typhoid, leaving the royal family with no choice but to postpone the nuptials. The Shah's reaction to this unexpected turn of events was surprising. Though deeply disappointed at the delay, he showed a softer, more compassionate side. Throughout Soraya's illness, he made daily visits to her bedside, bringing her small yet extravagant gifts, jewels placed delicately on her pillow, as a gesture of his affection and support. It was an extraordinary display of devotion, but also a telling glimpse into the complexities of their relationship, where grand gestures often masked deeper challenges waiting to unfold. Despite Soraya's fragile condition, the Shah showed remarkable tenderness during her illness. It is said that every day throughout her recovery, he visited her bedside to place a jewel on her pillow, a small yet grand gesture of devotion. While his actions were undeniably thoughtful, they also underscored the urgency with which the royal family wanted to move forward with the wedding. In their impatience, they rescheduled the ceremony to take place just 6 weeks after her initial illness. The motives behind this haste remain ambiguous. Was it the Shah's intense love for Soraya that drove him to push ahead, or was it his desperation for a male heir to secure the monarchy? Whatever the reason, the timing proved to be disastrous for Soraya. Still weak and far from fully recovered, Soraya was barely able to stand on the day of her wedding. Nevertheless, the ceremony went forward as planned. Her iconic wedding gown, designed by Christian Dior, was a masterpiece of fashion, a silver lame creation adorned with pearls and trimmed with marabou feathers. While the dress dazzled onlookers, few realized the length Soraya had to go to endure wearing it. She was so chilled and frail that she had to layer a wool vest and socks beneath the elaborate gown to keep from shivering uncontrollably. The dress itself was astonishingly heavy, weighing approximately 66 pounds, and the combination of its weight and her weakened state nearly caused her to collapse. Even the Shah, who had been determined to press on with the wedding, could not ignore her struggle. Just before walking down the aisle, he ordered the train of the dress to be cut short to ensure she could make it through the ceremony. Despite these challenges, the couple exchanged vows, bound by both love and the immense expectations placed upon them. While their love seemed genuine, their relationship was tumultuous from the start. Soraya's personality, as sweet and charming as it could be in her good moods, also had a volatile edge. When crossed, she was unafraid to display her temper. At one public dinner, after a disagreement with the Shah, She shocked the guests by smashing a priceless vase against the wall. On another occasion, following an argument, she barred the Shah from their marital bed for weeks, forcing him to sleep on a cot outside her bedroom door. Such incidents fueled gossip among courtiers, but they only hinted at deeper issues within the marriage. Their arguments, while fiery and dramatic, often revealed the stark differences in their personalities. Soraya's youthful anger and impulsiveness clashed with the Shah's reserved and emotionally detached nature. Much of his aloofness stemmed from his love-starved childhood, which left him stiff and shy even in private moments with his wife. This emotional disconnect, combined with the pressures of royal life, led Soraya to rebel against her role. Although she loved the Shah, she quickly grew disenchanted with the responsibilities of being queen. Soraya's disdain for royal customs became increasingly evident. She often refused to wear formal attire or participate in traditional ceremonies, preferring instead to shirk her duties entirely. Unsurprisingly, this behavior backfired. While the Shah may have adored her, his court viewed her actions and her European heritage with suspicion. Despite facing criticism for favoring Western customs and rejecting traditional norms, Soraya inadvertently became a symbol of resistance against conventional views of women's roles in Iranian society at the time. Her strong-willed personality and open defiance of royal protocols portrayed her as a woman unafraid to challenge societal boundaries in pursuit of personal happiness. For some modern Iranians, particularly advocates for women's rights, Soraya represents more than a misunderstood queen. She embodies independence and the courage to break free from restrictive traditions. However, this rebellious spirit also made her a target of gossip and isolation within the royal court, highlighting the cultural clash between her progressive inclinations and the conservative expectations of the time. Her disregard for royal expectations, coupled with her fiery temper, earned her the dismissive nickname "that German woman." Tensions between Soraya and the royal family reached new heights during the 1950s when she became embroiled in an international scandal. While visiting friends in America, she was photographed water skiing in Miami wearing a revealing bikini. The image caused an uproar in conservative Iran, where such displays of modernity were seen as a disgrace. The royal court went so far as to ban the photograph from being circulated within the country. This scandal may have marked the point at which the royal family began actively plotting against her. Relations between Soraya and her in-laws had always been frosty. Much like the Shah's first wife, Princess Fazia, Soraya struggled to find acceptance within the court. However, the cruelty Soraya endured was unprecedented. The royal family's jealousy and resentment toward her only deepened as they perceived her growing influence over the Shah. Their animosity, coupled with Soraya's own rebellious nature, set the stage for the dramatic and heartbreaking turns her life would soon take. The royal family's hostility toward Soraya became increasingly evident as their jealousy over the Shah's devotion to her intensified. However, Soraya had her own insecurities, and her jealousy was about to spiral out of control. Although the Shah did not yet have the male heir he so desperately desired, he did have a daughter, Princess Shahnaz, from his first marriage. This complicated Soraya's already strained relationship with her in-laws, who frequently accused her of monopolizing the Shah's affection. Ironically, Soraya made similar accusations toward Princess Shahnaz, who was only 8 years younger than her stepmother. Soraya deeply resented the princess, perceiving her presence as a threat to her position and believing that Shahnaz absorbed too much of the Shah's attention. Beneath this animosity, however, lay a deeper fear, Soraya's growing concern about her ability to conceive. As queen, One of her primary duties was to provide the Shah with an heir, but 3 years had passed without a pregnancy. This failure weighed heavily on Soraya, as well as on her marriage. Desperate for answers, the Shah arranged for Soraya to travel to America for a comprehensive medical evaluation. At first, the results were cautiously optimistic. Doctors in New York attributed her difficulty in conceiving to the stress she had endured in recent years, reassuring her that there was no underlying medical issue preventing her from having children. Despite the initial good news, an unshakable sense of dread lingered. Determined to be absolutely certain, the couple sought a second opinion in Boston. The results of this examination were devastating. Soraya was diagnosed as infertile, and doctors confirmed that she would never be able to bear a child. This revelation shattered the couple's hopes and further strained their already fragile marriage. By 1954, their relationship was nearing a breaking point. The stress and heartbreak only exacerbated their arguments, which grew increasingly heated and prolonged as they struggled to find a solution. The situation worsened that autumn when tragedy struck the royal family. The Shah's brother, Prince Ali, died in a plane crash at the age of 32. This loss heightened the urgency of producing a male heir, placing even greater pressure on Soraya. Determined to fulfill her role as queen, Soraya embarked on an arduous and often humiliating journey, undergoing countless medical tests and experimental treatments in an attempt to overcome her infertility. Yet, despite her efforts, nothing succeeded. Throughout this painful ordeal, Soraya received little, if any, support from her in-laws. Instead, their hostility only deepened. The queen mother and royal princesses, already resentful of Soraya's position and influence, seized the opportunity to undermine her further. They spread malicious rumors throughout the court, mocking her inability to conceive and casting doubt on her suitability as queen. This relentless gossip created an unbearable environment for Soraya, who nevertheless clung to hope. In a twist of irony, Soraya found herself relying on her stepdaughter, Princess Shahnaz, to resolve the crisis. Shahnaz had recently married Ardashir Zahedi, the son of a prominent former prime minister, and Soraya hoped that the young couple might provide the Shah with a male grandchild to secure the dynasty. However, this plan quickly unraveled when the Shah, disapproving of his daughter's choice of husband, declared that he would never accept a grandson from their union as his heir. This rejection left Soraya and the Shah with no clear path forward. Faced with this dire situation, the Shah began to consider a controversial alternative. Aware that Soraya would never be able to give him the heir he needed, he proposed taking a second wife, a practice not uncommon in the Iranian royal family, as his own father had married multiple women. For Soraya, however, this suggestion was unthinkable. Known for her passionate and often jealous nature, she could not tolerate the idea of sharing her husband, even if it meant preserving her role as queen. Her fierce opposition to the Shah's proposal marked yet another turning point in their already tumultuous marriage. The Shah's proposal to take a second wife was not an unprecedented idea in the history of the Iranian royal family. His own father had multiple wives, and the practice was seen as a pragmatic solution to issues of succession. However, this suggestion was utterly intolerable to Soraya. Known for her jealous and volatile temperament, she was fiercely protective of her position as the Shah's sole queen. Even casual interactions between the Shah and his daughter, Princess Shahnaz, were enough to spark Soraya's ire, so the idea of him bringing another woman into their marriage was unthinkable. Unsurprisingly, she rejected his proposal outright, refusing to compromise her role or her dignity. Desperate to find another solution, Soraya proposed a bold alternative, amending the constitution to allow one of the Shah's half-brothers to inherit the throne. In her view, this change could resolve the crisis without jeopardizing their marriage. However, the Shah, unwilling to directly oppose her or outright dismiss the idea, responded with a vague and evasive excuse. He claimed that altering the constitution would require the approval of a council of wise men. This so-called council, as Soraya later realized, did not actually exist. The Shah's reluctance to confront the issue directly revealed the extent of his internal conflict. He did not want to lose Soraya, but was also bound by the pressures of his royal duties. Amid this growing tension, Soraya's relationship with her mother-in-law took a decisive turn for the worse. The Queen Mother, who had never fully accepted Soraya, became one of her most vocal adversaries. Viewing Soraya as a hindrance to the dynasty's future, she began pressuring the Shah to divorce her. Her campaign to remove Soraya from the royal family gained traction as the couple's marital struggles became increasingly public. By March 1958, the weight of these pressures proved too much for the marriage to bear. After years of trying to resolve their differences, the royal couple reached a breaking point. On March 14th, the Iranian government officially announced their divorce, declaring that Soraya was no longer the queen. The public announcement framed the separation as a straightforward decision, but the reality was far more complicated. At the time of the announcement, Soraya was living in Europe, far from Tehran. She later claimed that the news came as a complete shock to her. Just 9 days earlier, the Shah had called her, pleading once more for permission to take a second wife. He warned her that if she continued to refuse, he would have no choice but to end their marriage. Soraya, unwilling to accept such terms, held her ground, unaware that the Shah was already preparing to move forward with the divorce. When the Shah addressed the Iranian people to confirm the separation, his reaction revealed the depth of his sorrow. Overcome with emotion, he openly wept during his speech. His tears, however, did little to soften the blow for Soraya, who felt blindsided and betrayed by the sudden finality of the announcement. Though their marriage had officially ended, Soraya's love story with the Shah was far from over. The pain of their separation marked the end of an era for both of them, but the emotional ties that bound them would continue to shape their lives in the years to come. For Soraya, the heartbreak was only the beginning of a tragic chapter in her already tumultuous journey. After her divorce, Soraya was expected to fade quietly from the public eye and settle into a modest, unremarkable life. However, her story took a very different turn. As she relinquished her royal title, the Shah ensured that she was not left entirely adrift. In what seemed like an effort to soften the blow of their separation, he showered her with parting gifts. These included a luxurious penthouse suite in her beloved city of Paris, a generous monthly allowance to sustain her lifestyle, and other extravagant tokens of their past life together. A Rolls-Royce Phantom and an exquisite Bulgari ruby among them. Although these gifts were officially framed as gestures of goodwill, they also reflected an undeniable reality. Soraya and the Shah were not ready to sever their emotional ties completely. It wasn't long before rumors began to swirl about the former couple. Despite their formal separation, Soraya and the Shah reportedly met in secret on several occasions. These private reunions hinted at a lingering affection that neither seemed capable of letting go. However, before they could explore any chance of rekindling their relationship, Soraya had to endure one of the most painful experiences of her life. By 1959, just a year after their contentious divorce, the Shah's desperation to produce an heir led him to remarry. He chose Faradiba, a young, beautiful woman widely presumed to be fertile, in a grand and highly publicized ceremony. The world watched with bated breath to see if Farah would succeed where Soraya had failed. For Soraya, the outcome was a devastating blow. In October 1960, less than a year after the wedding, Farah gave birth to a child. The timing was no coincidence. Almost exactly 9 months after the marriage, she delivered the long-awaited heir, a healthy baby boy, who would be named Crown Prince Reza. The birth of the Crown Prince was a moment of triumph for the Shah and his new queen, but for Soraya, it was a bitter reminder of her own struggles and the ultimate reason for her fall from grace. The heartbreak was compounded by the speed with which Farah fulfilled the role that Soraya had once hoped to achieve. With her place in the royal family definitively replaced, Soraya faced an uncertain future. Seeking a new direction, she turned to the world of entertainment, an arena that had always intrigued her. With her striking beauty and royal mystique, Soraya found her way into the glamorous world of film. She landed roles in movies like The Three Faces, where her presence commanded attention both on and off the screen. However, her foray into Hollywood was far from smooth. The film industry, rife with drama and intrigue, presented its own set of challenges, and Soraya quickly found herself entangled in the complexities of her new life in the spotlight. Following her departure from royal life, Soraya sought solace in romance and passion to escape the heartbreak of her past. She embarked on an intense affair with Franco Indovina, a charismatic Italian film director. This relationship was far from casual for Soraya, who threw herself into it with the same fervor she had once devoted to her marriage. For her, Franco was not just a fleeting distraction, but someone she grew to deeply love, eventually declaring him the second great love of her life. Yet the relationship was doomed from the start. Franco, though clearly captivated by Soraya, was already married, making their union fraught with complications. Despite these challenges, their love persisted until tragedy struck. In 1972, Franco died in a horrific plane crash, leaving Soraya devastated. The news was a crushing blow that reignited the pain of her past losses, and she sank into deep despair. The grief was overwhelming, derailing her budding film career and forcing her to retreat from the public eye. Soraya withdrew to her Parisian penthouse, seeking refuge in the quieter circles of high society. For a time, she resolved to live a reclusive life, avoiding further entanglements and focusing on maintaining a semblance of peace. However, Soraya's heartbreak was compounded by lingering memories of her time as queen. Even while married to the Shah, she had expressed frustration over his unwillingness to prioritize their relationship above his royal duties. She often lamented his unwillingness to sacrifice for love, contrasting him with King Edward VIII of Britain, who abdicated the throne to marry Wallis Simpson. Though Soraya had once fantasized about such a romantic gesture, she never imagined that fate might someday align with her wish. In 1979, Soraya, still burdened by the weight of her losses, received devastating news. The Shah, her former husband, was dying of cancer. Despite their separation of more than 2 decades, Soraya's love for him had never truly faded. Compelled by these enduring feelings, she penned a deeply emotional letter to the Shah. In it, she confessed her long-held secret that she had never stopped loving him. Her words were filled with vulnerability and longing, as she poured out her heart to the man who had once been her partner in both love and royalty. But Soraya's letter went beyond expressing her love. She also made a poignant plea. She asked to see the Shah one last time before his passing, hoping to reconcile their shared history and find closure for their unresolved feelings. To her profound relief, the Shah responded with equal sincerity. He admitted that he too still harbored love for her and shared her desire to say a final goodbye. It was a tender acknowledgement of their enduring bond even after years of separation, and a testament to the unbreakable connection they had once shared. The Shah, eager to reunite with Soraya despite his terminal illness, devised a plan to see her in person. To avoid complications with his current wife, he intended to arrange a secret meeting in Cairo where they could share a private farewell. Tragically, this reunion never came to pass. Before the logistics could be finalized, the Shah succumbed to his illness, leaving Soraya heartbroken over the missed opportunity to say goodbye to her first and greatest love. This unfulfilled meeting became yet another chapter in the saga of their star-crossed romance, marked by timing and circumstances that always seemed to conspire against them. Soraya's 7-year tenure as queen had been no less tumultuous. Her personal struggles, particularly her inability to conceive, weighed heavily on her marriage and her psyche. At the same time, the Shah faced mounting political instability that threatened both his reign and his life. During this period, Iran's Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh attempted to strip the monarchy of certain powers, consolidating authority under his own control. The Shah refused to capitulate, leading to Mossadegh's resignation. However, this political standoff did not end peacefully. Amid this political turmoil, Soraya's role in the Shah's court extended beyond that of a ceremonial queen. Reports suggest that she often voiced strong opinions about the Shah's decisions during these crises, demonstrating an unusual level of influence for a royal consort. While many expected her to remain silent and detached, Soraya reportedly encouraged the Shah to adopt a more assertive stance in defending his authority. Her advice was both bold and controversial, reflecting her frustration with the passive image of her husband during such critical moments. Some accounts even suggest that Soraya privately advocated for decisive actions that mirrored the tactics of other powerful leaders, underscoring her belief in strong leadership. However, her outspoken nature and westernized perspectives alienated her further from traditionalist factions within the court. This dual role, as both a supportive spouse and an unofficial advisor during one of Iran's most politically charged periods, offers insight into her complex position within the monarchy and her willingness to step into roles traditionally denied to women in Iranian politics. As the political crisis escalated, the Shah grew increasingly despondent, retreating into a state of melancholy. His perceived inaction frustrated Soraya to the point of fury. Rather than sympathize with his struggles, she reportedly adopted a more aggressive stance, embodying a fiery resolve reminiscent of Lady Macbeth. Frustrated by his passivity, she urged him to take decisive action. According to accounts, she demanded nothing less than a coup to regain control and stabilize the monarchy. Her bold and ruthless approach contrasted sharply with the Shah's more reserved demeanor, further highlighting the differences in their personalities and approaches to power. This dynamic, while illustrative of Soraya's strength and determination, added to the friction in their already strained relationship during one of the most challenging periods in their shared history. When the Shah refused Soraya's demand to launch a coup, her response was devastating. She bluntly expressed her disdain, telling him he disgusted her. In later years, she openly admitted that she had lost all respect for the man she believed had grown too weak to fulfill his royal responsibilities. This brutal remark epitomized the deep fractures in their relationship during her reign. Meanwhile, many Iranians viewed Soraya with suspicion and accused her of being prejudiced against their culture. Unfortunately, these accusations were not entirely baseless. Soraya, shaped by her nomadic upbringing and European education, often struggled to feel at home in Iran. She openly favored Western European customs, further alienating herself from the traditions and expectations of the Iranian people. Despite these criticisms, Soraya's life trajectory evoked profound sympathy. Her personal and public struggles culminated in an undeniably tragic end. By 1980, she had loved and lost 3 times, twice to the same man, the Shah. Following his death, she was left emotionally shattered and retreated to a quiet life in Paris. There, in the fashionable neighborhood of the Marais, she maintained a discreet social presence, mingling with duchesses, celebrities, and members of high society. Yet even in this luxurious exile, she lived largely under the radar, avoiding the limelight that had once defined her existence. The end of her life, however, was as mysterious as it was heartbreaking. On October 26, 2001, Soraya was found dead in her Paris apartment. The circumstances surrounding her death remain unclear, with no official explanation ever provided. The chilling uncertainty about her demise has left a lingering shadow over her story. To add to the tragedy, just 1 week later, her younger brother Bijan also passed away. Before his death, Bijan lamented that Soraya's passing had left him utterly alone, with no one left to confide in. The proximity of their deaths sparked speculation, with some suspecting foul play, though no evidence ever emerged to confirm these suspicions. Soraya's life has often been likened to a Shakespearean tragedy, drawing comparisons to star-crossed lovers like Romeo and Juliet. Her dramatic fall from grace and the series of misfortunes that defined her life have continued to captivate public imagination. Known as the sad-eyed princess, she remains a poignant figure in history, a woman whose extraordinary beauty and royal status could not shield her from the relentless sorrow that marked her existence. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the life of Queen Soraya. Her story remains a poignant reminder of love, loss, and the complexities of power. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fascinating tales from history. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time,